Okay, so as you can tell from the title, this is going to be a really fascinating story. And it's only after reading things like this that you realize that, yeah, when we read about one emperor, one conqueror, there are so many people in that person's life that it's kind of they're making sure that that person succeeds. And there's so many countless sacrifices that probably go unaccounted for. But this one we know about. This is the story of Khanzada Begum. And Khanzada Begum is none other than Babur's own sister. And who was Babur? Babur is the founder of the Mughal Empire in India. And this is the story of the sacrifice that his sister made for him in order for him to become that emperor. Hi, my name is Misha and welcome to Tarihi Tales. This video is again a part of the Mughal series, and if you're interested in watching more videos about the Mughal Empire, head on down below to the link in the description box and you can check out more videos. And if you like our channel, if you'd like to help our channel grow, you can do by multiple means. You can become a paid member on our Patreon, or you can become a paid member of this YouTube channel. I'll put a link in the description box and I'll put one up here as well. Or if you're in Pakistan, you can help with the number provided on screen. Other than that, you can always like, share, subscribe, comment. All of that good stuff really helps us out as well. Now, if you want to watch this video in Urdu or Hindi, I have another channel where the same video is uploaded around the same time in Urdu/Hindi. And also, if you want to know where I'm getting all of my knowledge from, where did I get all this information from, it's a really good thing to ask. Well, like always, everything I'm telling you, all the sources are listed down below in the description box. And I do encourage you to go there, have a look for yourself and learn for yourself. Don't take my word for anything, okay? So let's get into the story. Now, Khanzada Begum is a very fascinating character and she's had quite a life. Now, Babur talks about her in his memoirs, the Baburnama, and he says that Khanzada Begum is his full sister. That means she's not a stepsister or something, she's his full sister, and she's 5 years older than Babur. Now, Khanzada Begum's role kind of comes into the limelight in the early years of Babur. This is long before Babur even thought about coming to India or even Afghanistan for that matter. At this time, he was in Central Asia and he was fighting off this guy called Shaybani Khan. He was trying to get Samarkand from this guy. So Babur mentions that in the year 1500 AD, he was able to take Samarkand, and he was able to do this with very few number of men. If you want to know more details about these battles and this time of Babur, I have a whole detailed series on Babur where I really delve deep into all of these battles. It's very fascinating, honestly. Babur himself has had a very fascinating life. So at this point, in the year 1500, Babur has just taken over Samarkand, and he's done so from under Shaybani Khan. Now, Shaybani Khan had taken the city and left a few men in charge of the city and then went back, retreated for the winter. And Babur, he barely had like 100 something men, and he managed to take Samarkand very strategically from Shaybani Khan's men. Now, once he took the city, he wrote to all of his relatives, all of his allies, asking for help, asking for reinforcements to be able to maintain his hold on the city. But no reinforcements came. So eventually, when Shaybani Khan actually attacked, people say that Babur would not have been able to get away if his sister Khanzada Begum had not become the scapegoat or had not sacrificed herself for Babur. Now, as to what exactly happened with Khanzada Begum, it's kind of still a little bit of a mystery because we have a number of different accounts of the same incident and a number of different stories are kind of emerging from it. In the Baburnama, Babur only mentions in one sentence, very sadly, he basically says that Khanzada Begum fell to Shaybani Khan, implying that it wasn't something with consent. And the following year, in 1501, Shaybani Khan actually marries Khanzada Begum. Other historians like Gulbadan Begum basically say that Khanzada Begum's marriage to Shaybani Khan was one of Shaybani Khan's actual conditions as to which would be fulfilled, and only then Babur would be allowed to escape Samarkand unharmed. Other people say that she was actually given as ransom in exchange for Babur's life. And again, people say that Khanzada Begum's marriage to Shaybani Khan was a precondition. Now, when you look at Shaybani Nama, the guy Shaybani Khan also had a book called Shaybani Nama. He basically said something like, if you would marry your sister Khanzada Begum to me, there might be peace and a lasting alliance between us. So that was kind of like the condition some people say that Shaybani Khan put forward. But as I mentioned, there are differing accounts. Now, when you look at Shaybani Khan's own account in the Shaybani Nama, that's a completely different story. He says that his marriage to Khanzada Begum is a love match, that they loved each other and that's why he wanted to marry Khanzada Begum and nothing else. So this basically changes the narrative from her being in a forceful marriage or like a scapegoat to her being with her lover and being happy. But again, it's only Shaybani Khan that's kind of giving us this story. story. All the other historians and all the other people from that time say the opposite, that, you know, this was definitely like a deal and she definitely gave a sacrifice. But if you look at Babur's account, you kind of get the feeling that Khanzada Begum was kind of captured, not even bartered, that there was no conditions, there wasn't like a negotiation to give away Khanzada Begum, but it was something like she was captured and they couldn't get her back, and eventually Shaybani Khan married her. Now the thing to note is that she was already Shaybani Khan's captive. He didn't need to marry her, obviously, but he did that out of respect, and in order to marry Khanzada Begum, Shaybani Khan actually divorced the woman he was married to, who was Khanzada Begum's maternal aunt, and then only he married Khanzada Begum, and they had one child together. But later, after many years, Shaybani Khan actually divorced Khanzada Begum as well and married her away to one of her lower ranked generals called Sayyid Hada. He was of inferior rank, and both Sayyid Hada and Shaybani Khan actually died in a battle in the year 1510. And it was only after the Shaybani Khan and Sayyid Hada passed away that Khanzada Begum was actually able to come back to meet her family. She was reunited with Babur after 10 years. And Babur talks about this in his memoirs and he's very happy. So now when you look at this, that the only time Khanzada Begum is allowed to actually meet her family again is after the death of Shaybani Khan, then the narrative that we get earlier of her marriage and Shaybani Khan's marriage being a mismatch kind of makes sense. But one thing we know is that when after all of this, Khanzada Begum was reunited with her brother, Babur kept her in the highest of regards and he really respected her and revered her to an extent. And all of this even extended after Babur's own death. Now even in the writings of Gulbadan Begum, who wrote Humayunama, she talks about Khanzada Begum all the time and talks about her in terms like one of the wisest women in court. And she says things like the elderkin's women and highest of them all in the time of Humayun. Now when we talk about Humayun's reign after Babur's death, Khanzada Begum, who was basically the aunt of Humayun, was actually given the status of like a first lady in Humayun's court. She was the go-to person, the most important woman. She got this position after the death of Maham Begum, and she was also kind of given an honorary title of Padshah Begum. Now the word Padshah is Farsi for Badshah, which means king. So she's not being called a queen, she's being called a lady king. And we have other sources from where we know that Humayun actually had great faith in her, and he really confided in her and took her advice to heart and went to her when things went over his head and he could not solve his problems. He went to her for help and advice. This was actually very common in the Mughal courts. Women were actually, and especially smart women, were given the status that they deserved. They weren't dismissed just because of being a woman. She was also actually sent as an ambassador from Sindh to Kandahar during the reign of Humayun to kind of solve a political problem. She was unable to solve the problem, but the fact that she was sent kind of was the precedent, because this was the first time that a Mughal woman was kind of going in official court authority to settle some matters as an ambassador. And this was not the first time. Such incidents took place again where Humayun would call upon his aunt and ask her to kind of go settle a matter, go to that area and talk sense into those people and things like that. So there we go, that's the story of Khanzada Begum. She passed away in 1545 with all honors. Even during that time, she was known as Padshah Begum. So from being a girl who was kind of forcefully taken into marriage, or whatever things she went through with Shaybani Khan and then given away in marriage to another man, and then finally being reunited with her brother and eventually being kind of called like the king of this great empire. Now Khanzada Begum definitely had a story which we should share and tell others about, because if it were not for her sacrifice, historians talk about this a lot, that if Khanzada Begum had not kind of stayed back or had not married Shaybani Khan, then Babur's life would have been in danger from the very beginning. All of the things that he ends up doing later in life, like in Afghanistan and India, none of that might have happened. So there we go. Let me know what you think of this story down in the comments, and I will see you guys next week. Bye.